page 878. Page 878. And yesterday we spoke about Pinchas, who saved the Jewish people because he spared Cosby and Zimri. And now the Torah goes into, on top of page 878, second line, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe ve'Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen Lemor. Hashem says to Moshe and Elazar, Aaron has died, so Elazar has taken over as the Kohen Gadol. Se'u'ez rosh kol das b'nei sova ben esrim shana v'malo, take a head count. L'veis avosam kol yotzei tzava b'Yisrael. So they're going to count them again. And Rashi brings down that if you give a flock of sheep to the shepherd, and then some of them, the wolves come and they kill some of the sheep, so they got to count the flock again. So the Jewish people have just died. There's been a plague. And the Jewish people, a lot of them died, so we're counting them again, number one. Number two, Rashi brings down that when they were given to Moshe Rabbeinu, with a number. They were given with Moshe Rabbeinu with a count, and therefore, since they were given with a count, he's about to give them back because Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die soon, so he gives them back with a count. Okay, now I want to show you. You look at the Torah, and it's going to go all about the names over here, and you wonder what you go through all these different names and numbers and everything else. I just want to show you we'll see a few names. That there's so many layers of meaning in Torah. So much depth in Torah that even the names of people have meaning and have lessons and have implications. So take a look at Pasuk Yud. Pick it up at the bottom, towards the bottom of the page. So start from actually Pasuk 9 lines from the bottom. Pasuk Chestes. Uvenei Eliav Nemuel v'Dasan v'Aviram. The sons of Eliav are Nemuel, Dasan, v'Aviram. Who Dasan v'Aviram? Those are the very Dasan v'Aviram Kirui ha'eda asher hitzu al Moshe Aaron, who rebelled against Moshe and Aaron ba'adas Korach ba'atzosem al Hashem. That is the very same Dasan and Avirams. V'atiftach ha'aretz etzpia, the earth opened its mouth. V'atifla osam ve'ez Korach b'mos ha'eda, swallowed them in Korach. Ba'chol ha'esh es chamishim u'masayim ish v'ayu l'nes. They were a nes. Now what does that mean? That they were a nes. So if you take a look at Rashi, Rashi says, Vayu l'nes is the top line in the left column. La'os u'lezikaron. They became a sign and a reminder, L'man asher lo yikra v'yizar lachalok ol alakuna, that no stranger should go and rebel against the kahuna. What did Korach and Dasan and Aviram do? They rebelled against Aaron HaKohen. What happened? They got swallowed up. Vayu l'nes. Now why is it called a nes? When you think of a nes, what do you think of? A miracle, and a nes is a miracle. Hanukkah, nes, Hanukkah, all the nes, a nes is a miracle. Yet here, Rashi translates the nes, they are a reminder, a sign, and a reminder not to, because, that's a big reminder. Anytime anybody thinks to rebel against the Kohen Gadol, so just remember, people got swallowed alive, which is generally something you want to avoid. And so, now, where else do we find the word nes? We say it 3 times every day. Where? Where do we say nes? The word nes. 3 times every day we mention nes. Close. In the Shemot Esrei we say v'sa nes lekabetz g'le'useinu. Raise up a banner. A nes is a banner. When you raise up a banner, the thing up on the flagpole, that's called a nes. Why is it called a nes? What's the connection to a miracle? The same way that something up high on a pole is visible to all, a miracle is also visible to all. What's called a nes? What is the purpose of it? A nes is not just for the effect of saving the people. The nes is that we should pay attention to what just happened. If the sea split, and if if the sea split, and if the 10 plagues and all. It's not just for the effect. It's for the effect of the effect. I mean, yeah, you got saved in the Yam Suf. The sea split, you were saved. Now think about that. We were saved in the Yam Suf. Think about the effect. If the Israeli Air Force knocks out the Egyptian Air Force on the first day of the 6-day war, do you know that's what happened on the 6-day war in 1967? On the first day of the war, the Egyptians, there was panic in the country. People thought they prepared, I think, 20,000 graves that they had already dug, 20,000 graves in the country. People thought were going to get thrown into the sea. So Israel launched a preemptive strike, and they knocked out the Egyptian and the Syrian Air Force on the ground on the first day of the war. And then Sadat, what's his name, Nasser, who was the president of Egypt, he sent a message to King Hussein of Jordan that the Egyptians have knocked out the Israeli Air Force, which was far from true. And so, what's his name, King Hussein, who the Israelis had warned to stay out of the war, and he believed Nasser. He thought the Israelis had been neutralized. He thought that their air force was us. So he joined the war, and then they got smashed. That's when we took back the old city and the Western Wall, and Yerushalayim expanded, and so on and so forth. Now, what was the point of the miracle? Was the point of the miracle to save the Jewish people? That's certainly the effect of the miracle, to save the Jewish people. But the real effect is that we should study the effect of what happened and realize that there's a God running the show. I mean, did anybody stop and think Israel in 1967, the state of Israel was 19 years old? Did anybody stop and think, well, why is it that after 19 years they already have a superior air force and superior intelligence to the Egyptians, Jordanians, and the Syrians all put together? Did everybody stop and think about that? That itself is a miracle. That itself is a what do you call it? That's part of the effect of studying. Well, what just happened over here? That's a nace. That's a miracle. Then the Torah says, the next pasuk, Ubnei Korach lo mesu. The sons of Korach didn't die. That means Korach died. Dasan and Aviram died. They got swallowed up. But the sons of Korach didn't die. Take a look at Rashi. Ubnei Korach lo mesu. Heim hayu ba'etz tchila. Originally, at the outset, the sons of Korach were involved in this plot. Ubishas hamachlokas. Yet at the time of the dispute, hirheru tshuva v'libam. They thought tshuva in their heart. That means you can do tshuva just with a thought. A person on his deathbed who lived sinful his entire life, who was sinful his entire life, and on his deathbed he could think to himself. He may be a person who's, completely incapable of any sort of physical action. He may not even be able to talk. Yet he could think to himself, I did wrong. I did wrong. I should have not have lived my life the way I did. That's considered tshuva. So they thought tshuva to themselves. Now look at the Rashi then says a very strange thing. Lefichach nisbatzer lahem makom gavoa begehenom. A high platform was arranged for them in Gehenom. V'yashvu sham. They stayed there on a high platform in Gehenom. Now I'll tell you the truth, I don't understand this. Rashi, it's not Rashi. Rashi is quoting the Medrash. And the Medrash says that the sons of Korach were saved, and they managed to be saved by having a high platform in Gehenom. Now, I don't know what that means exactly, because when Korach and his men got swallowed, hold all the questions and the comments for a few minutes, then I'll take them in a little while. Korach and his men get swallowed up, and they get swallowed up into the physical earth. Gehenom is a spiritual type of a spiritual thing, yet it seems to be that in this physical there's some sort of counter-physical place in earth that is actually corresponds to the spiritual Gehenom, something along those lines. And they have a high platform in Gehenom. And then they actually say some of the Tehillim that we have, because we say leave the Korach Mizmor, those are the Tehillim they were singing in Gehenom. So they were saved. Why? Because they did tshuva. And then for Torah says, Ubnei Korach lo mesa. The sons of Korach didn't die. Now, there are two questions here. First question is, if they did tshuva, so then they should be in Gehenom at all. And if they didn't do tshuva, they should go into the deepest part. There are different levels of Gehenom, gentlemen. There are different levels of Gehenom. The Gemara says that for certain people, certain averas, ma'amikin lo Gehenom. Gehenom is made even deeper for certain sins that a person could do. Ma'amikin, there are different levels. They're said to be, according to one source, there are 7 levels of Gehenom. I had a guy here once from Florida, and he was learning here in the yeshiva. His father was completely secular. He had zero attachment, no Pesach, no Seder, no nothing, no Shabbos, no nothing. And his father kept in Israel, at the time, we're going probably go back about 15, 20 years. So Israel, there were some terrorist attacks or something, so he even spoke to his father on his phone. His father said, well, your people are having some trouble there. So his father he said, Dad, they're your people too. His father was a corrections officer on Rikers Island, on Rikers, what do you call it? What's it called?
Rikers Island.
Rikers Island, which was a penitentiary. His father used to say, all day long he spends he spends working with the lowest scum of the earth. He said, and then they're the prisoners also. So he was, he was what he called. He was a corrections officer, and eventually he and his wife and his mother-in-law moved to Florida. They moved from New York to Florida. They got to Florida, and the day they got to Florida, shortly after they got to Florida, there was a blackout in Florida, and there was no air conditioning, and there were no lights. So they were stuck in a dark house in Florida in the heat with absolutely no air conditioning. Now that's Gehenom. That's Gehenom. But Gehenom got even worse because his mother-in-law was there with them, and the whole time she kept whining and fetching. He said that's how you can have Gehenom, and you can have a worse Gehenom. You can have a Gehenom, and you can have. Make sure move your elbows over just a little, maybe slide over a little bit because the camera's over there. You could have a Gehenom, and you can have even a worse Gehenom. 1 second. Then after 3, now this is a guy who has got zero connection to Yiddishkeit. After 3 days, they eventually fixed the power in Florida. And he calls up his son, and he said, the electricity went back on. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Even that'll get you religious. Get out of Gehenom with your mother-in-law. That'll get you. It's enough to make a believer out of anybody. So there's a concept of mamik and logan. You go to the dentist. And by the way, the dentist is Gehenom. You know what Gehenom is? What is Gehenom? We talk about, he's going to go to hell and burn for eternity. What is hell? What is Gehenom? Hell is a translation of Gehenom. What is that? The answer is, you have an neshama. We have a soul. And when a person dies, unless a person is just completely evil and has absolutely no entrance to the world come, your average Jew who, has lived a good life, but, once in a while he messed up. So then, imagine a guy who's invited to a banquet. Yeah, a big banquet. There's a wedding, and it could be a shmorg, like an American shmorg at a wedding. And you've been planning, you've been limiting your food intake for about a week because you plan on taking no prisoners at the shmorg. The day before, just the thought makes you happy. I shouldn't be talking about this on a fast day, right? Yeah, with meat. It bleeds like a burger, with some nice ice cold Pepsi. And what do you call it? So you're on your way, and the day before this wedding, you got a terrible toothache. That's Gehenom. It's throbbing. It's like it's throbbing. I know a guy he had such a bad abscess, he had to go and get it drained, and which not only drained his tooth, it drained his wallet. It cost him 6,000 shekels. Yeah. That's mamik and lo Gehenom. Your tooth is throbbing, and while your tooth, you can't think about anything. You certainly can't think about going to the banquet. So you go to the dentist, and he starts, and this is for your good, and he starts drilling, and he's cleaning it out. It hurts. It's not comfortable. Not only that, he's asking you questions which you can't answer because your mouth, you're lying on your back with your mouth open, and you go, they carry on a conversation with you. I had a dentist who's really good he's really good in the teeth. The only thing is that just his elbow placement wasn't good. So periodically I'd walk out with bruises on my chest, because to get leverage, he kind of, that's also a form of Gehenom. So he's drilling away. And as he's drilling away, okay, you got the shots of Novocaine. I generally take. I asked the guy once, the dentist, he said, I don't want to feel anything. So the guy said, he gives me a shot. He goes, tell me if you feel anything. Yeah. I go like this, yeah. So he gives me another shot. I said, what's the legal limit? He said, I think he told me 6 shots. I said, hit it up. Let's go. Just put it. I don't want to feel anything. So so then he starts. He's drilling, and all of a sudden he runs out of Novocaine. That's mamik and lo Gehenom. Gehenom could get even worse. There are different levels of Gehenom. But it's all for the sake of then allowing you to go and enjoy the banquet. It's allowing you to go enjoy the banquet. So what happens is, a neshama, after 120 years, goes up to Shemaim. The neshama has some stains on it. So they have to put it into the spiritual washing machine, clean it out a little bit. For some people, a little more unpleasant. For some people, very unpleasant, but eventually it's cleaned out, and then the neshama is released in order to go into Gan Eden, to go into paradise. So Gehenom is actually a cleansing process. The only thing worse than being in the dentist's chair, there's only one thing worse than being in the dentist's chair, is being in the waiting room. while you're smelling everybody else's enamel that's being chipped off of their teeth, and hearing zzz, and once in a while with the kid in one of the rooms, he's screaming his lungs out. Even worse when it's an adult. And you're out there, you haven't even gotten into Gehenom yet. That's a neshama that's in a state of limbo. There are certain levels of a state of limbo. And the neshama then goes, but eventually the neshama gets cleaned out. You want to know how it could change instantly? It could change instantly because it happened to me at the dentist's office. Because they put me in a room and I was waiting for my appointment and they hooked me up they put the laughing gas on me. They put the mask with the laughing gas on me, getting me ready for the dentist. And I was in one, he was with one patient, I was in the next, right? And then they forgot about me. And I was on laughing gas for about 45 minutes. So, you could be in Gehenom and you could be immediately taken out to paradise. You could have gotten 8. Yeah, it was good. I'm not going to lie to you, it was really good. For about 45 minutes, I remember because the nurse officer, she opens her, she goes, "Oh, you're still here, we forgot about you." And I was like, "No hurry, no problem at all." So you could change instantly. They could change instantly. So b'nei Korach lo mesa. Now so they're in some sort of that's what Gehenom is. Gehenom is a cleansing process in order to allow a person to go on to the next level. Now there's another idea here, b'nei Korach lo mesa, that if you take a look and read it, the Torah the Torah does not have vowelization in there. When you look at a Torah, if you get an aliyah and you look at a Torah, then I just got aliyah this morning because I'm a Kohen. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. Anybody else here a Kohen, by the way? Any Kohanim here? All right, this is my turf. For Truma and Meiser, this is my turf. You have to find your own place, man. And anybody a Levi? Any Levium? All right, you guys a Levium? All right, if you're good, I'll let you wash my hands. But what do you call it? The Torah does not have, when you look up at the Torah does not have any punctuation. So it's all written and it's not broken up. Now, if you read this, now look carefully, gentlemen. 878, 3 lines from the bottom. I know it's hard because we're fasting, but let's just a little bit. Let's read the last. It says, "Vayiyu lenes uvenei Korach lo mesu." Now, if you take out the punctuation, it could be read together as one sentence. It's really the end of the previous sentence, that Dasan and Aviram were Vayu Lenes. They became, we said what Rashi says, that they became a reminder to the Jewish people. But a sign for the Jewish people. But if you read it without the punctuation, then it could read on as Vayu Lenesu b'nei Korach lo mesa. It was a nes, and the b'nei Korach didn't die. And one of the commentaries says that the Torah is alluding to something here. Torah is alluding to, let me ask you a question. You guys know yourselves. Your parents, when you look at your parents, all parents, you see certain positive traits and certain negative traits in parents. Anybody sees their parents, nobody's perfect. Which traits do you think kids find it easier to copy? They're good traits of the parents or the flawed traits of the parents? What would you say?
I think the good. You
think the good? Oh, you're a very positive person, right? How many of you think the good? How many of you think the not so good? Yeah, the nays have it, right? In other words, parents have to know. It's important for parents to know. Kids know what's important to parents. All kids know what's important to their parents because they see what's important to their parents. The father who tells his kids, "I want you to daven," but the father doesn't take davening seriously, the kid sees it's not. The kid says he's only lip service. If a father cares about money, the kid sees what's important to the father. If a father cares about about being kind to people, the kid sees that that's important to the parents, that they're kind to people. Will the kid do it or not? That's something else. The negative traits kids tend to absorb more easily. And one of the biggest, most easily absorbed negative traits, if parents are contentious people, they're always fighting. They fight with the neighbors. They fight with the school. They fight with the people in shul. They're always fighting with somebody. They're always arguing, and they're always negative and arguing. Kids are going to generally absorb that. So in the commentary, it said that's one of the miracles here. Vayu lenes u'bnei Korach lo mesu. The miracle is that the sons of Korach didn't follow in Korach's footsteps. That Korach is a rebel, and Korach's a fighter, and Korach is against it, and the kids didn't follow that, that itself is a miracle. Because in life, it usually you see that. You could look at a kid, if a kid's a fighter, you guarantee his parents are fighters. If a kid's uncooperative, I can tell you that chances are, not always, there are surprises in life, but not too often. Not too often. The negative trait, especially the trait of being argumentative, being argumentative. I just had a guy recently, a guy from the other yeshiva. So I get a phone call. This is going back about 2 weeks ago. I get a phone call, and I come home. My daughter tells me she's left a message for me that I got somebody called from America. So it turned out this guy was a former student I had in the other yeshiva about 2-3 years ago, and he calls up, and I mean we weren't particularly tight, but we spoke. We spoke. We weren't. I didn't know why he was calling me. So I figured he was calling me to tell me that he got engaged. That's what I figured. I had no idea. So I call him up, and I say hi. I told him and I call him up, and the first words out of it, he says to me, "Rabbi, you were right. I'm too argumentative." First words out of his mouth, and he was saying it in a almost upbeat way. So I figured something must have happened with a girl. That's usually what happens. Usually he probably met a girl, there was a shidduch, and the report came back that she doesn't want to go out with him because he's too argumentative. But I didn't want to say, I didn't know what was going on. So I said, why do you say that? He said, there was a shidduch and there's a girl, and the report came back, he's too argumentative, and what do you call it, and they're still going out, but he said, how do I work on it? So I said to him, how you work on it is you just agree with her. No matter what she says, just say, that's interesting. If she says to you, I think Canada is smaller than Switzerland, just say, yeah, wow, that's really interesting. And that's it, wow, and do something like that. Don't argue. And this is the type of guy who can make an argument out of anything. If you say this is the type of guy, if you'd say to him, parents named the child at the bris. So he's the type of guy who would go, well, that's not technically true. It's not necessarily true because if they discussed it in advance, so really they've named the child in advance. No matter what you say, if say the sun rises in the east, say, well, it's only east if you're looking at it from this direction, but if you're to the east, there's always if you say Columbus discovered America, it's like, well, he didn't actually discover it, because there were people living there before. There's always that sort of personality. And some people do this and they do it very harshly. They do it with daggers. Those are people that are really entitled. He was actually a happy-go-lucky guy. He's a sweet guy. He just was, and I had told him a number of times, you're too argumentative. Don't do that. It's not you can't get along, especially with a wife. It's not going to cut it. So apparently he had met a girl. They went on a shidduch. They met a girl. They've gone out a few times, and she's picking up that he's always got, it's always like fetch. Right? So he told me that. So that's a trait that's easily absorbed by the kids. Number two. And number three, Ubnei Korach lo mesu. Ubnei Korach lo mesu, the commentaries say that, disciples are called children. The Gemara says Talmidim are called banim. Disciples are referred to as children. Torah is telling you, Ubnei Korach lo mesu, Korach's disciples never died. In every generation, there are disciples of Korach. There's always going to be somebody in your shul, somebody in your community, somebody in your house, somebody in your area who's going to be the Korach, who's going to go against everybody. There's always that guy in the shul. There's always that guy in the community. There's always that guy in the yeshiva. You're going to meet those people. Those are the disciples of Korach. The spiritual disciples of Korach never died. They're going to be around in every generation. Okay, now let's go on. Take a look at Pasuk Tes Vav. And now this looks like just this looks like a simple name of a family, page 880. B'nei Gad lemishbechosam, the sons of Gad, second line from the top. Litzfon, mishpachas hatzfoni. Lechagi, mishpachas hachagi. Leshuni, mishpachas hashuni, various families of Gad. Now, okay, if you say so. There's Tzfon, and there's Chagi, and there's Shuni. Okay, so I'll tell you something enchanting. First of all, I'm thirsty. Right? That's not enchanting. That's just a fact. How you guys doing? You fasting? Everybody it's fun, yeah? No. By the way, they found medically that it's good for a person to fast 5 to 6 times a year. It's good to fast 5 to 6 times a year to help clean out the system. And guess what? How many fasts do we have in the course of a year? 6.
Isn't
6.
there at least, I thought it was at least 5 or 6 Torah mandated, but there's additional ones that are...
We have 6 fasts, 6 mandated fasts every year. There's Yom Kippur, there's Tisha B'Av, Shavasar B'Tammuz, Asara B'Teves, Tzom Gedalia, and Tiny Esther. Those are the mandatory fasts. It comes out that there are 6. They're just another one of those interesting coincidences that what you find in Torah seems to stem with medical science. They seem to be onto something. And no coincidence. And in medical science, they found that it's good to fast 5, 6 times a year. Now, the Gemara says like this. There's a Gemara in Tractate Shabbos on page Kuf Dal. The Gemara says, everybody knows the Aleph Beis. Aleph Beis, Gimel Daled, right? Aleph Beis, Gimel Daled. People from Chicago are really solid. You never heard that sort of thing. There's all these Aleph Beis, what do you call it? So the Gemara says every letter means something. What does Aleph mean? The word Aleph means to learn, to study. Aleph. But Aleph also comes from the word aluf. Aluf, which even in Hebrew, in English means aluf. Aluf means a general. So Aleph is the first one of the letters of the Aleph Beis. But Aleph, the word Aleph means to study. Beis stands for Bina. Bina, which is wisdom. Study wisdom. Gimel Dalid, the Gemara says Gimel Dalid stands for Gmol Dalim. Do kindness with the poor. Dalim are poor people. Gmol Dalim. This is what the Gemara says. That the letter, there were 2 children, by the way. The Gemara says 2 children came to a base medrash one day, and they started saying what all the letters of the Aleph Beis stand for. It said Aleph Beis, Aleph Bina, Gmol Dalim, do kindness with the poor people. Then it goes on. They go on and they say all the letters of the alphabet. Now, if you take a look over here, take a look at what we're talking about. B'nai God. What is B'nai God? Look at the word God. God is Gimel Dalid, which the Gemara stands for Gmol Dalim. Gmol Dalim. Okay, so what's they got now? Look at the rest of the names. One of the things you're supposed to do when it comes to giving tzedakah is to be discreet. The Gemara says instead, if you give tzedakah to a poor person in public, better you shouldn't have given him. I'm not talking about the guys on the street. The guys on the street who are panhandling, and when you walk through Mea Sharm or Geula, and they have the Geula tax, and there are people there that you have to, they're in public, there you're allowed to give them. You're allowed to give them because they're asking for it in public. But to walk up to a guy and say, hey, I got something for you, and give him money in public is a part of the mitzvah of tzedakah is to be as discreet as possible. There's actually a case in England. There's, every community has a Shabbos relief organization. They give out food they give out money for poor families for Shabbos. So this guy, wealthy man in England, he goes to one of the administrators of the fund in England. He goes to the guy and says, listen, I want to donate £1,000 to your Shabbos relief organization. I want to give you £1,000, but I would like you just, it's a nice donation. I know it's a nice donation. I would like you just to let me know the names of the families who are going to be getting help because of my £1,000. So the guy says, listen, we have a policy. We don't disclose the names of our families. He says, I'll give you £2,500, which is about half your weekly budget. But I think for that kind of donation, I'm entitled to the names of the families. He says, listen, we just don't do that. He says, I'll give you £10,000. For £10,000, I think you can let me know who gets the money. He says, you give me £1 million, we will never tell you the names of our people. And the guy says, good, that's all I wanted to know. You see, people think I'm rich. I've actually lost all my money in the crash, and I need to come to you to ask for help, but I'm worried that people will find out, and I want to make sure you're discreet. That's why I asked you that. Now that I see you're discreet, please put us on the list. So part of tzedakah is to be discreet. There's actually a Gemara that says in Kesufis, Mar Ukva and his wife, Mar Ukva used to put money by a certain man's house anonymously. And this guy was curious who was putting the money there. And then one day Mar Ukva and his wife went to the door. The guy heard them coming. So as they put down the money, this guy came to the door to see who it was. So they started running. So he ran after them. So they ran and they entered. There was a bakery of some sort that had a furnace, and the furnace was, the coals were simmering down from the whole day of baking. And they went into the furnace. Mar Ukva and his wife went into the furnace, and his feet started burning on the coals, but her feet weren't. And she said to put your feet on my feet. So he put his feet on her feet, and he didn't get burnt. And why did they jump into a furnace? To save the person the embarrassment, not knowing who it was that's giving them the money. But then the Gemara says, and why did his feet burnt and not hers? Why? So the Gemara says, because men and women give tzedakah differently. A man is out on the street. You give somebody money. You give somebody $10. He's got to take the money, and he's got to go and buy some food to eat. We're talking about people who are starving. A woman is in the home. When somebody comes to the door, she gives him a piece of bread. So she's one step sooner to relieve his hunger than the man is. For that one step sooner, so her feet didn't burn. His feet burnt. And he had to put his feet on her feet. So the what do you call it? That now. So the number one rule in giving tzedakah is that you should be discreet. Number two, you should give it happily. And it's not so easy, is it? Give away your money. I'm so happy to part with my money. Right? Just give away your money happily. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm about as happy about going to the dentist. Here, take my money. Right? This like says, it even says in creation, you got to give up your life and you got to give up your money. And the Gemara says, well, if you give up your life, obviously you have to give up your money. The Gemara says, no, there are people who would give up their life before they give up their money. There are people who actually give up their life before they. We had a guy in Chicago who was a religious guy. He was in his office, and somebody one guy, two guys broke in with guns, and they said, open the safe. He said, I'm not opening the safe. You'll have to kill me. I'm not opening the safe. That wasn't part of the what do you call it? That wasn't part of the script. So they ended up running. He just wasn't going to give his money away. It's too hard-earned money. That happened in Israel, by the way. There was a guy walked into a bank in Israel, a 70-year-old woman behind the counter in the bank, and the guy pulled a gun on her. Said, start putting money in the thing. She said, no. Can't tell me what to do. 7-year-old Israeli lady. No. And the guy, put the money in the thing. No. Now what are you going to do? Blow away a 70-year-old lady? Got on his motorcycle and he rode off. She wouldn't give him the money. There are certain people that won't give their money. So give away your money to a poor person, you got to give. And then remember, you know, as a thought, the guy knocks on your door, he's asking for money, and you think to yourself, get a job, man. Get a job like the rest of us. So it's hard, but you have to do it happily. Number three, if you have $1,000, should you give $1,000 to one person or $1 to 1,000 poor people?
$1 to 1,000 poor people.
$1, why?
Because you're spreading it out more.
You're spreading it out, but you know, what can he do with $1? $1,000 could change somebody's life. What's he going to do with $1? You're doing more mitzvahs, but again, the guy on the receiving end, you could actually have a bigger effect by giving one guy $1,000. What's that?
Of course, that might be true theoretically, but like,
You're building the habit. The answer is that giving tzedakah is not only what it does for the person on the receiving end, it's what it does for me. What does it do for me on the giving end? It makes me into a giver. I got to do it repeatedly. And if you have more money, you got to give away more money repeatedly. There is no limit to how many times you got to give tzedakah other than the financial limit, which the Gemara says that you can't give more than a certain amount. But you have to keep giving. Now look at the names over here. B'nai Gad, Gimel Dalet, Gimel Dalim. Lemishbechosam, litzfon. Tzfon means the hidden. That means that tzedakah should be done in a discreet, hidden way. Litzfon mishpachas atzfoni. If you're going to do it in a hidden way, in a discreet way. Tzafun, on Pesach. Tzafon, the north. You know why the north is called Tzafon? Because that's where the sun is most hidden. Because it's cold up there. And the sun is, that's why it's called Tzafon. Lechagi mishpachas achagi. What's a chag? A holiday. What do you do on the holidays? You celebrate. That means you got to do it happily. Lishuni. Shuni is from the word lishanot. Lishanot means to repeat. Lishuni bishpachas hashuni. That a person should repeat tzedakah, give tzedakah repeatedly. That is the lesson, and that's what's in a name. So he asks, what's in a name over here? There you have an answer to what's in a name. Now I want to show you one more thing, then we're going to stop. I just want to show you one more thing. Take a look at Pasuk Lamed Tes. On the next page. Now this is the tribe of Binyamin. Pick it up on 5 lines from the top. One more point, then we're going to stop. B'nai Binyamin le'mishpachosam levela mishpachas abali la'ashbel mishpachas ha'ashbeli la'achir mishpachas ha'achirami. And then in Pasuk Lamed Tes, 8 lines from the top. L'shfufam mishpachas ha'shufami, l'chufam mishpachas ha'chufami. Now, if you look at those words, those 6 words, l'shfufa mishpachas, everybody see that?
Yeah.
L'shfufa mishpachas hashufami, l'chufa mishpachas hachufami. What stands out in those 6 words? The pay, the repeated word letter pay. Right? Like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, right? You got the pay, yeah. You ever hear that? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Yeah. So this is the shfufa mishpachas hashufami, lechufa mishpachas hachufami. And I told you every letter in Hebrew has a meaning. What does the letter pay mean? Mouth. A pay is, and the reason it's called a mouth is because if you look at the shape of the pay, it looks like it's got that little entrance. It looks like, with any imagination at all, it looks like a face with a mouth open. Right? With any imagination at all. That's what the pay. So the pay stands for a peh. Now, we are here tracing families in the tribe of Binyamin. Now watch this. Where does the tribe of Binyamin start? Who is the mother of the man named Binyamin? Rachel. Rachel. Now what do we know about Rachel? There's a famous story that Yaakov was going to marry Rachel, and then there was a switch. Lavan pulled a switch, and he brings in Leah instead of Rachel. And Rachel, instead of blowing the cover of Leah, Rachel doesn't say anything. Rachel remains silent. She has a son, Binyamin. Binyamin is well aware of the fact that the other brothers are selling Yosef. But he's been sworn to secrecy. They made a ban. And Binyamin does not reveal the fact that his brother Yosef has been sold. Eventually, they have there's a descendant of Rachel named King Shaul. The first king of the Jewish people comes from the tribe of Binyamin. King Shaul, King Shaul. He is the first king of the Jewish, his name is Shaul. Shaul means borrowed, by the way, because eventually the kingdom is going to be taken away from him, given to Dovid HaMelech. But he's named King Saul, King Shaul. And when he was anointed king, remember the story? He was looking for his father's donkeys. And he happened to he went to Shmuel HaNavi. And Shmuel HaNavi said that he was searching. His father had lost some donkeys. So Shaul went off with his attendant. They're looking for 3 days for these donkeys. And eventually, after 3 days, he gets to the prophet Shmuel. And the prophet Shmuel says to him, listen, forget about the donkeys. The donkeys have been fun. I got different news for you. I'm anointing you king of the Jewish people. Could you imagine? You go to Washington, D.C. on a class trip, and they say, listen, President just quit. We want you, right? And they anoint you. And then Shaul gets anointed as king. And you say, I can't. I'm not a black woman. What could I do? Right? He says, that's okay. That's okay. You're a minority group. We'll take you too. You're a Jew. Right? So, see, and you probably got a better chance than her. So where do you go? So Shaul goes home and he meets his uncle. And his uncle says, hey, Eddie, what happened on your trip? So Shaul talks about a trip and he doesn't say a word about being anointed king. Do you think you would tell it to somebody if you went to Washington, you're anointed president? I think I might mention that. Hey, how was your trip? Oh yeah, saw the Lincoln Monument. Yeah, oh, that was great. No. First thing I say, by the way, how was my trip? I'll let you know when I drive up in my limousine, the Beast, right? That's what it's called, the Beast. So you know the presidential limousine is called the Beast? Yeah, and he also has a plane. He also has his own plane. It's good to be president, except when you get shot at. But it's good to be president. But if I'm anointed president, what's the first thing a Jew says? Do you have kosher food? First thing a Jew has, kosher food. You got kosher food? And a shul, and a mikveh, and a chavrusa, forget it. You're not president. Too many requirements to give you the beast. All right, we're not giving you a shul. So now imagine you came home. You might tell, Shaul doesn't say a word to anybody about it. Now, 1 second. Shaul has a son, Yonasan, who should be the next in line to be the king, except that the king is going to be Dovid, and Shaul and Yonasan are best friends. And Dovid runs away, and Shaul says to Yonasan, where is he? And Yonasan won't say. And he has a daughter, Michal, who's actually married to Dovid HaMelech. It's his daughter. Dovid is his son-in-law. And she wants to know from his daughter, where's Dovid? And she won't say. You pick up a pattern, gentlemen? And then there are 2 more descendants of the tribe of Binyamin who don't talk. One of them is Mordechai, who doesn't say that Esther is Jewish. And one is Esther herself, who doesn't say that Esther is Jewish. So you have 7 descendants of the tribe of Binyamin, all of whom stand out in their ability to not talk. Take a look at the pasuk again. How many pays do you see in the pasuk? 6 words, but how many pays?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow.
Wow, how do you like that? 7 pays. There are 7 mouths in the tribe of Binyamin. That means the definition of a mouth, gentlemen, the definition of a mouth is not the ability to speak. The definition of anybody could talk. Dogs bark too. The definition of a mouth is the ability to not speak. The definition of a mouth is the ability to restrain speech. If you could have the ability, if you can't stop from talking, you just blab whatever comes out. That's not about. That's an inverted vacuum cleaner that's just spewing out garbage. The ability, the definition of a mouth is when you know what not to say. If the ability to not talk, now just 1 second. Just 1 second. Turn back for a second now to Parsha, turn back to 468. With this we finish. Turn back to 468. Somebody once said, a closed mouth gathers no feet. Think about that. Profound. 468. A closed mouth gathers no feet. An open mouth, sometimes you put your foot in it. Right? A closed mouth gathers no feet. So take a look at 468. And the Torah describes over here the various stones in the chest plate. Each one of the stones corresponds to one of the tribes. Each stone corresponds to the tribe. Now take a look right in the middle of the page. Smack in the middle of the page, pasuk chaf. Vehatura revi'i, the 4th row of stones, Tarshish v'shoham v'yashvei. 3 stones. One's called the Tarshish stone, the Shoham stone, and the Yashvei stone. The Yashvei stone is the stone that corresponds to the tribe of Binyamin. Take a look at that word Yashvei very closely. The word Yashvei breaks into 2 words in Hebrew. Yesh, peh. They have a mouth. That's the tribe that has a mouth. Why do they have the mouth? Because they're the tribe that know not to talk. That's the definition of a mouth. So the tribe of Binyamin is the Yashvei stone. There are 7 people in the tribe of Binyamin through history who don't talk. And gentlemen, everybody have a good fast.